I
All right. So, thank you all very much for joining this important uh, webinar by the Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy. आप सबको Iran Mubarak. Let's start with that. Uh, in these times when, what do we say, when the world is going through dark times of lies, of treacherous diplomacies, and absolutely brutal warfare on the people, I think the ability to talk about and sing about the dark times is indeed important. And thank you all for joining this. We are very, very grateful to all the friends and members of the forum who initiated, supported, and has been consistently engaged in looking at not only this webinar, but looking at war as counting the cost of war, the human cost of it, the global cost of it, the gender cost of it, the ecological cost of it, and the humanity cost of it, if I may call it that. So, again, Pakistan ko diplomacy Mubarak. I think it has been a very, very important intervention in these times. So, I think definitely appreciate the fact that Pakistan government and the push from the people has led to Pakistan playing a very significant role. It's something that the entire South Asia and the world can be proud about. And I think we would definitely want to put that on record as Pakistan India People's Forum, that we're happy that South Asia, at least one of our governments, played a significant role in making sure that the ceasefire could come into existence. PIPFPD, physically in India, we are also in the midst of organizing a national convention, our next national convention, in the coming week, next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 18th and 19th of April. We are doing our national convention as Ishq, Siyasat or Awam, Why Peace Matters. This is going to be held in New Delhi, India, and we are doing this also in the memory of three stalwarts, contemporaries of each other in a certain way, politically and in an era. Comrade Avtar Singh Pash, or known as Pash, and Faiz Ahmad Faiz, and Sahir Ludhianvi. So, in celebrating these three stalwarts of South Asian resistance and South Asian poetry and South Asian love, if that English word suits the framing of Ishq, and looking at politics around us through their prism too, not just in glorifying their poetry, but actually understanding the development of political resistance through the prism of poetry that they beautifully and very powerfully evoked and reflected. Last year, if you may remember, the India National Committee had organized a program, again, Ishq Siyasat or Awam. We had celebrated it through the life and works of Fahmida Riaz and Amrita Pritam. So this is in continuation of that, but this is also the national convention of the by PIPFPD. It is going to be held after 8 years in India, and we are hoping that this inspiration will lead us to a national convention in Pakistan too soon, and that we are able to do a joint convention of the forum in the year 2026. So with those, I will sign off. I will request Dr. Saida Hamid, who is the chairperson, co-chairperson of the Pak India Forum in India, and also followed by Rita Manchanda, who will be moderating the discussion today. Saidapa is not just someone who has been active through the forum. She has been very powerfully and eloquently a face of resistance, a face of talking truth to power in the country and in South Asia. And she has been part of a very lived culture of people's movements too, despite all her official assignments as part of planning commission and things like that in India. Rita has been a consistent feminist voice, a human rights voice in South Asia. Rita has been one of the founding members of the Pakistan India People's Forum, and currently the joint co-chair Forum India chapter. Rita has been a researcher, a feminist writer, author, and also someone who has consistently been working with women who have been working towards peace. Would request everybody else who is not speaking to kindly mute their microphones. I request Dr. Saida Hamid to kindly welcome the participants and set the context so that then we can get into the session. Thank you.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया विजयन. ये इतनी यादें हैं और अब तो चंद ही लोग रह गए हैं जिनकी इतनी यादें हैं. आसमा को याद करते हैं, डॉक्टर साहब को याद करते हैं, रहमान साहब को याद करते हैं, निर्मल मुखर्जी को याद करते हैं, और हमने सबकी शक्लें देखी हुई हैं और सबसे सीखा हुआ है हमने. मैं ये समझती हूँ कि इस वक्त 50 लोगों का इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे आना, इट इज़ अ वंडरफुल थिंग एंड इट्स अ वंडरफुल बिगिनिंग. और इतने साल के बाद, 8 साल के बाद, दिस द Indian convention, and like Vijayan said, we hope, हमारी उम्मीद है, हमारी दुआ है और हमारी ये तमन्ना है कि एक पाकिस्तान इंडिया पीपल्स कन्वेंशन इस वक्त, इसी साल ये मुमकिन हो जाए. And this is our very earnest desire, and I really want to say that everybody who has come, the spirit of Asma and Dr. Sahab and Rahman Sahab and Nirmal Mukherjee and Tapan Bose, and my God, like too many, the spirit is with us. And I'm saying it with almost tears in my eyes. So, okay. So I don't want to prolong this, but I want to दो छोटी छोटी एक नज़मों से मैं शुरू करना चाहती हूँ. और ये छोटे एक्सर्प्ट्स हैं उन नज़मों के, एंड आई थिंक एवरीबॉडी अंडरस्टैंड्स, बिकॉज एंड इफ यू डोंट अंडरस्टैंड मुझे माफ़ करिएगा, बट वन इज़ अली सरदार जाफरी एंड अदर इज़ कुंवर महिंदर सिंह बेदी सहर. सो लेट मी स्टार्ट विद कुंवर महिंदर सिंह बेदी सहर. और दो स्टैंजाज उनकी नज़म के, लंबी नज़म है, उसके 2 स्टैंजाज मैं आपको कोट करना चाहती हूँ. कुंवर महिंदर सिंह बेदी फरमाते हैं, फिर चले बादे बहारी, फिर चले बादे मुराद, सहने गुलशन में रवां हो, फिर सबाए इत्तेफाक, कुल्फतें सब दूर हों, सब तकलीफें दूर हों, सब रंजिशें दूर हों, कुल्फतें सब दूर हों, मिल जाएं सब रंजो तजाद, खैर से उनका हो फिर सब फितनाओ अहले फसाद. सुबह, अब ये सुनिए कि सुए मंजिल towards the I can't do without my glasses. सुए मंजिल रहरवाने तेज गाम आए तो हैं, सुबह के भूले जो हैं वो वक्त शाम आए तो हैं. जब पाकिस्तान में उन्होंने ये पढ़ी तो पूरा मुशायरा उन्होंने लूट लिया, कुंवर महिंदर सिंह बेदी सहर. और उसके बाद कहते हैं, आओ हम मिलकर बने एक दूसरे के पास बा, हम पे हो साया फिगन, चिश्ती यहाँ नानक वहां, दिल जो मिल जाए तो क्या हाजित तफंगो तीर की, खुद ब खुद गुत्थी सुलझती जाएगी कश्मीर की, खुद ब खुद गुत्थी सुलझती जाएगी कश्मीर की. और कौसरो गंगा से लेकर बादए इरफां का जाम, आओ एक दुनिया को पहुंचा दे मोहब्बत का पयाम, हो यही अपना वतीरा, हो यही तर्जे कलाम, बा मुसलमा अल्लाह अल्लाह, बा ब्राह्मण राम राम. This is a Sardar poet reciting to a मुशायरा which is लूट लिया मुशायरा इन्होंने. और उसके बाद कहते हैं, आओ दिल से दूर कर दें हम शरारे इंतकाम, आओ फिर दुनिया को पहुंचा दे मोहब्बत का पयाम, रह सके अमनो सुकून से, शाद हो अपने अवाम। ए सफीराने हरम, पहुंचे तुझे मेरा सलाम। हाल मुस्तकबिल हो अपना, ताबदारो ताबनाक, जिंदाओ पाइंदा ए सरजमीने हिंदो पाक। सो ये कुंवर महेंद्र सिंह बेदी का कलाम था। और अब चंद लाइनें अली सरदार जाफरी, जो कि फैज अहमद फैज की टक्कर के थे, मगर मैंने दोनों शायर को, फैज साहब और साहिब साहब और पाश से, एक तरह से अलग कर दिया है। दोस्ती का हाथ, और वो कहते हैं, तुम्हारा हाथ बढ़ा है जो दोस्ती के लिए, मेरे लिए वो है एक यार गम गुसार का हाथ। a friend who is my gam gusar, who shares my pain. जमीन पाक हमारे जिगर का टुकड़ा है। सब पाकिस्तानियों को, हिंदुस्तानियों को मैं कहना चाहती हूँ कि जाफरी साहब कहते हैं, जमीन पाक हमारे जिगर का टुकड़ा है, हम ही अजीज हैं दिल्ली और लखनऊ की तरह। तुम्हारे लहजे में मेरी नवा का लहजा है, मेरा तुम्हारा दिल है हंसी मेरी आरजू की तरह। और आखिर में कहते हैं, करे ये अहद के औजार जंग है, ऑल द इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ऑफ वॉर, करे ये अहद के औजार जंग हैं जितने, उन्हें मिटाना है और खाक में मिलाना है। करे ये अहद के अरबाब जंग हैं जितने, ऑल द पीपल हु वांट वॉर, करे ये अहद के अरबाब जंग हैं जितने, उन्हें शराफत व इंसानियत सिखाना है, ईरान को सिखाना है, मगर उससे बढ़कर अमेरिका को और इजराइल को सिखाना है कि उन्हें शराफत व इंसानियत सिखाना है। और आखिर में कहते हैं, और ये बिल्कुल आखिर की बात मैं कह रही हूँ, तुम आओ गुलशने लाहौर से चमन बरदोश, तुम आओ गुलशने लाहौर से चमन बरदोश, हम आए सुबह बनारस की रोशनी लेकर, हम आए सुबह बनारस की रोशनी लेकर, हिमालय की हवाओं की ताजगी लेकर, हिमालय की हवाओं की ताजगी लेकर, और उसके बाद ये पूछे कि कौन दुश्मन है। तो ये कलाम, इतने शायरों का कलाम है। So many poets have, there's a wealth of poetry, and there's a wealth of emotion, and there is a wealth that this event has taken place, and we have our beloved Pakistani friends on the platform, and all our comrades and workers and Hamnawa or Hamsafar in from all parts of India and this platform. And thanks, Rita, very much for making this happen. And so I will just say conclude, and I'll sit quietly for the rest of the meeting. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.
Thank you, and salam, namaste. You know, I have been practicing in Hindi to do this, but now having seen everybody speak in, or at least Vijayan introduce in English, I will not, well, let's see, huh? The first thing I want to say is how important such meetings are. These kind of conversations, these kind of transnational, cross-border, South Asian dialogues, initiatives, all kinds of initiatives in whatever form, they're extremely important. Why? Because they give the lie to these hostile visa regimes. They defy them, they deny them, and therefore, every such action, in a sense, is challenging these kind of hostile policies, which are determined to keep us apart. And therefore, I am delighted that there are people who are who have joined the webinar. And it's particularly important because today we are seeing, in India at least, the spread of an atmosphere of extreme hatred, especially through these propaganda films, blockbuster propaganda films like Dhurandhar. And what is the message of Dhurandhar? Those who've seen it or read about it would know. What is it? As one editor said, it shows Pakistan as a bleak state, brutish, lustful, full of violence, terror-ridden, and therefore it predicates a response from India, which is revenge, retribution. So now, one of the reasons that I was so keen that we do this kind of dialogue is because what are we moving towards? We've naturalized the language of war as the kind of communication between India and Pakistan. I mean, look at the way that I don't know if our Pakistani friends have had an opportunity to do this, but certainly I'm sure our Indian friends have seen that the way that India has reacted to Pakistan emerging as in fact the facilitator or the mediator. There is, of course, the pitch is, or rather the cue is given by our foreign minister itself when he says Dalali nation. And then we have, of course, editors, we have former ambassadors, all our Buddhijeevis saying what? Saying that, oh, well, they're really just a post box, they're a courier, trying to belittle it, trying to, in fact, I mean, it's a pettiness, it's a resentment. Why? Because as far as Pakistan is concerned, as far as the India-Pakistan relationship is concerned, speaking from at least from New Delhi, it is a zero-sum game. There is no question of win-win. The fact is, we should be extremely relieved that there is a ceasefire, that there is the promise of, in fact, a permanent peace, difficult as it may seem, that it is Pakistan that has emerged as, in fact, a central figure in this. Instead, what are we doing? We're just, taking pot shots, baiting. I mean, this is what we do in Geneva. This is what we do in New York. This is what we've been doing, and what led to, in fact, the emergence of the forum in 1994 during the Geneva Conference on Human Rights, when we saw our countries' representatives baiting each other. And there were civil society people from India and Pakistan sitting around the table saying, these people are not speaking for us. We need to understand each other. We need to look at what is common. And there are issues of commonalities. Of course, we have structural issues. There are huge issues and problems between India and Pakistan. But if you reinforce the divide, then all we're doing is reinforcing also this idea, the stereotype of Dushman nations who will be at war, will never be able to dialogue, will never be able to reconcile. And that is not the truth. It is to give the lie to this kind of narrative that, in fact, Pak India Forum was founded, Pak India Forum flourished and continues to, in fact, have relevance. And I hope that this now the new momentum will, in fact, re-energize it. I'm now going to move forward towards, in fact, the panel discussion. And while, of course, as we've all realized, we're an interconnected world, and it was a global crisis. But it's also something that India and Pakistan, and particularly Pakistan, are direct, immediate stakeholders in what is happening in West Asia, because we are neighbors. And Pakistan shares, I think, a 900-kilometer border with Iran. And there are all sorts of other connections, which I'm not going to elaborate. But so while the focus, however, in this webinar will be what kind of lessons can we actually learn from this conflict, from the West Asia conflict, especially in terms of how easy it is to break the peace, the devastation of war, and does it have any lessons for an India and Pakistan that also is a nuclear flashpoint? After all, we just saw that last Tuesday, at least I was thinking certainly, and I think many were like me were thinking that there might even be a nuclear exchange. So, and even Operation Sindoor is just paused. As we've often said, the kind of bellicose rhetoric, the kind of militarized nationalism on both sides. So what is the lesson that West Asia teaches us? Is there the possibility of a peace constituency re-emerging, getting re-energized? And also I'd like to know, particularly from our Pakistani friends, the elevation of the diplomatic profile of Pakistan, and particularly of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif, the hybrid government, what does it portend for India and Pakistan relations? Here in India, in fact, it's being spoken of that, oh, now they might even go in for adventurism, greater adventurism. So how do you see that impacting both the external relationship as well as your internal politics in terms of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Baluchistan? Also, what kind of authoritarian tendencies will get reinforced both in India and Pakistan? We saw what happened in Iran. We saw what happened in Israel in terms of the introduction of very draconian anti-democratic laws. What in terms of our budgets? And then finally, the last word in terms of gender issues, because it is important. Not only do we want to bring in a non-status perspective, a people's perspective, but also be sensitive to the gender lens, as particularly as we saw in Operation Sindoor, there was the weaponization of gender, the very name Operation Sindoor, which became like a war cry. And so the whole issue of the nexus between patriarchy, militarism, and the deepening of gender inequality, which is usually what happens in not only in conflict, but in where you have the dominance of the military or militarization, I would say. I would like to call upon Sabah Gul Khatak to be the first speaker. And Sabah is based in Islamabad. I have known Sabah for many years when she was executive director of the Sustainable Policy Institutes. Since then, she has held many eminent positions, including that of being a member of the Planning Commission. In fact, she wrote in a recent article that she lamented that the demise of Pak India Forum and such initiatives resulted in the ending of joint initiatives towards a subcontinental or South Asian scholarship as well as activism. I hope that you will revise that opinion after today. Sabah.
Thank you, Rita. It's difficult to be the first. I was hoping that others would speak and I'll just plug in. But I have 4 or 5 points that I wanted to make after you invited me, and I'm very honored to be here. And it's always very comforting to be among friends, like-minded friends. So thank you for that. In the interest of time, I will just very quickly start. First of all, I wanted to say, that wars, all wars, of course, no one quite wins them, but wars are felt, they are emotionally experienced, and they're not always, these very rational, strategic discussions, not for me anyway. And wars are memorialized in each and every cell of our body. So for me, war is not something that I can talk about without getting emotional. They are deeply emotional. So with that start, I want to say thank you for also starting with poetry, जो कि दिल को लगती है. And that's what we are about. That's what humanity is about. So thank you for doing that. First of all, these recent wars are like video games now. The terms of wars have changed. And you click a button and you wreck a country, you wreck homes, you wreck lives. But for you, for the pilot, it is all very clean, or for the person who starts the drone attack, whatever, it is all very clean, very scientific. You don't see what you are doing. You don't see the gory blood. You don't see the cries. You don't see the limbs that are scattered. So, it's very easy to do all this, but the emotional suffering of people continues for decades. For parents who've lost their daughters to a school attack, it will continue for decades. it won't go away. For children who've lost parents, for students who have lost professors, for doctors who are not there to treat their patients, for engineers to build roads, for street vendors, for everyone who has been killed by Operation Epic Fury. The toll is not just material, the toll is emotional, and it is irreplaceable losses that cannot be measured. The bridges, the roads, the infrastructure will be built, but the inability of a mother to feed her children properly cannot be rewritten or redone. So that is what wars do, and we have to remember that. The second aspect of this war, the attack on Iran, has been that there are no holds barred. The lines between civilians and combatants have been basically not blurred. They're not blurred. They have been finished completely. So we can't talk about international law and rules of law anymore. Um, if it's okay to bomb a girls' school, it is okay to bomb universities, it is okay to bomb libraries, it is okay to bomb hospitals, pharmaceutical factories, vaccine centers. Basically, health and education infrastructure can be destroyed with impunity, civilizational context, heritage can be destroyed. There will be impunity for all this, no questioning. That's the other aspect of this war. The information blackouts on the part of all the countries involved, trying to say that their damages are not as bad as the ones that they are wrecking on the other side. And in this context, it was very clear to us during 9/11. For me, the biggest casualty of 9/11 were BBC and CNN and so on, that were giving us very one-sided views. And this war again reinforced that, except this time, people didn't want to watch certain channels, certain news. They wanted to emotionally follow what they wanted to hear, and the algorithms were there to do that for them. So that also created a very different emotional path for people. I hope I've been able to explain. And blocking the devastation of war, we know what it is, but then at the same time, UAE started arresting people for, uh, putting out videos. So did Israel. I'm sure so did Iran, where there was a internet blackout. So all countries participated in this. The humanitarian aspects, of course, are there. There are no winners, and the poor suffer. Um, this has also been the case of Pakistan's bombing of Afghanistan, which has been overshadowed by this war, and I wanted to point to that. And again, civilians died in Pakistan's aerial bombing. They bombed a hospital. I felt truly ashamed. There are massive damages. Regime change seems to be like, very normal now, with Trump calling for regime change all the time. Well, Americans have done it for a very long time, but even Pakistan felt it needed to talk about regime change. The displacement, of course, with regard to humanitarian crisis, I mean, that when I think of shifting house, it is such a daunting process. Imagine when you have to leave your house, your belongings, your identity, your home, how traumatic that is. That is why I'm saying wars are felt emotionally. They are not rational. You can't only feel them rationally. And humanitarian crises are deeply emotional, traumatic events in one's life. Also, this conflict has fundamentally rewritten the rules of engagement. So, for the subcontinent, I still say subcontinent, or I should say Pakistan, India, and not subcontinent. The most haunting takeaway is the speed with which unbreakable regional stalemates can dissolve into high intensity warfare. I mean, suddenly erupt. when one side thinks that there is a window of opportunity due to the other's internal weakness. पहले आप foment करें weakness, फिर आप suddenly attack भी कर लें. So, for us, I think we need to be aware of that. And then, of course, the role of religion. Between India and Pakistan and in the Iran context also. I would start with just Operation Epic Fury. I mean, Epic Fury. That itself, just look at the words. And then I was looking at Marco Rubio's video clip that is circulating, something he said in 2015. And I kept thinking, if I replace the supreme leader with Trump and Iran with the US, it would read just as well. So let me just read what he said, and if you can please mentally replace Iran with the US. Iran is led by a supreme leader, so one can say US is led by Trump, who is a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future. He is not a man who makes decisions. He's not a traditional geopolitical actor who makes decisions on the basis of borders or simple history or because of ambitions. He has a religious apocalyptic vision of the future, one that calls for triggering a conflict between non-Muslim world and Muslim world. One who feels especially obligated to trigger, and he's going to possess nuclear weapons. This is a world that that we are on the verge of leaving for our children to inherit and for perhaps for ourselves. I kept thinking, the US, it is Trump who has been threatening nuclear annihilation. It is the US that has the only country in the world that has cold-bloodedly used atomic weapons twice. So, the moral high ground belongs to neither one nor the other, neither to the clergy nor to the so-called non-clergy secular country. So-called, definitely. So, I don't want to take sides. I think both governments have been nasty. The Iranian government has not been very, very good to its own people, to its own dissidents. But people in Iran were very clear that they did not want US imperialism, because they kept saying, last year we've seen what happened to Afghanistan, we've seen what happened to Iraq, to Libya, and so on. So we will fight our own government. We don't need others to come in. And I think that is one of the lessons that we need to remember in our own countries, whether we want to apply as Pakistanis to Afghanistan or to one another by fomenting different kinds of conflicts within each other's countries. It does not work. We've seen it doesn't work over years and years. So whether in Iran the Kurdish issue was taken up or women's issues were taken up, what Israel hoped would trigger regime change, and what India and Pakistan do to one another on a constant basis. It does not work, but we don't learn. So religion becomes very problematic also within our own contexts, where the Shias here were told to leave for Iran if they don't like our Pakistani policies of siding with the US, or the larger issue in India and in Pakistan of religion. I will not go into too many details, but we know that the creation of Pakistan, the whole issue of Islam, Muslims in India, how they are treated, and how Pakistan treats its own religious minorities. So something is wrong with the fundamental structures of the state, itself, not just in India and Pakistan, but around the world. When the US started 9/11 and started with Islamophobia and so on, replaced communism with Islam, that is when the problems really multiplied. And after Trump took over, I feel that there has been a massive backsliding. Feminism, Rita, I'll stop. Just give me 2 minutes. I can see that you are getting impatient. I just wanted to say, and this is a lesson from our last meeting as well. Sorry, last year when India and Pakistan had their conflict, feminists were also divided. And in Iran, of course, we recognize that feminists, human rights defenders, other groups, labor, so on, are saying that they are not happy with their own government, but they will resist US imperialism. And then, of course, there are other feminist groups that have been saying, oh, remove the regime, especially those who are based abroad, Iranians based abroad, who are Shah supporters. So in Pakistan and India, I would also like to point out that there are many feminists that I would like to now call state feminists. They are there to sort of promote statist objectives. And I'm coining it as state, feminists right now, because I feel that is what many have become, and many even among us were reluctant to sign the peace, appeal that some of us had jointly written, because they were so immersed in statist discourses, they did not want to sign that on both sides again. So we need to introspect about what kind of feminists are we and where are we headed. Even within Pakistan, feminists have been divided on the Afghan refugee issue, where ethnic divides come into it, where many feminists have said, push them out of Pakistan. Others have said, don't push them. And we have had fights where years and years of friendships have gone down the drain. I feel similar stuff happened between Pakistani and Indian feminists as well, because we were not on the same page. And that is where I feel it is very, very dangerous. And we need to recognize that it's a dangerous path where, and of course, feminism has never been, one massive, whatever. And that there have been many kinds of feminisms, but now this statist feminism has just about taken over everyone's minds. I'll stop here. I had other points to talk about, but in the interests of time, I'll stop here. But we do need to revisit what we are about. Thank you.
That should be our next collective research agenda. But I thank you so much for, in fact, recentering war as experience, as emotionally felt. It is very much a feminist perspective. And the discordance between the way war is actually presented to us in the media, where it's really just like a video game. And thank you again also for sharing, very frankly sharing the division amongst feminists. Feminists has always been plural, but this kind of division is a much, much more serious one and something we need to engage with. And I think it's very appropriate that the next speaker is, in fact,
Rita, can I just request one thing?
Yes.
One point. I wanted to talk about the Epstein files also and the war. And I also wanted to bring in, we also have our own little Epsteins hidden away. As a feminist, I do believe, and I'm very disappointed that in the US, not very many feminists have spoken out as much, and how Epstein shadows everything everywhere. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's much larger, and I think a question that we perhaps should debate on another occasion, because we too have become very silent on some of our Epstein, the network that involves Indian Epstein fellows. I'm going to ask Vani Subramaniam to join us. Vani, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Okay, I mean, it is in fact very appropriate that you should follow Sabah because you are, after all, I think, one of the authors or one of the people who initiated that joint India-Pakistan women's petition against war. And perhaps you could engage with some of the things that she raised, whether there was, I mean, I think we're all aware of status feminists. We're also aware of perhaps many other categories, contentious categories, but perhaps you could take that on as well as engage with some of the other issues about the lessons of the conflict.
Hello all.
Sorry, I should introduce you. You are a documentary filmmaker. You are a leading feminist and gender rights activist, human rights activist. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rita, and sabko bahut bada salam. And I am very honored to be here. I'm a bit overwhelmed, I have to say, because I think many of you have done much more consistent work, particularly on South Asian relationships. I use that geography very consciously, and but so I in fact said to Rita, what am I going to add to that conversation? And I think that I will not at all take credit for that letter. I think many of us drafted it, crafted it together through trying to iron through some, through delicacies, through assumptions, through power imbalances, through all kinds of things. And I think for me, it was also a really important one. Although, yes, as Sabah reminded us, there were many issues, and concerns about why. And I remember Navsharan and me also having angst-filled conversations about nationalism and where do we stand as feminists, and why is it such a painful and difficult position to take, right? I, however, don't want to talk about that. I thought because I think that. When we talked about this moment, I actually, as it turns out, I'm from Saheli in Delhi, which many of you know about, and we are currently in the process of archiving. I'm not going too much into a personal history here, but I thought it was really interesting to look at some of the positions that we've taken over time, how we understood war and conflict, and I thought maybe in this moment, it might be useful. Not everything we have to agree with, not every articulation I agree with myself, from a perspective of 2026. But I pulled out a few moments and I thought it might be interesting for us to just look back a little bit. And I will try to not lengthen this introduction so that I can sort of share what I really wanted to. I think we've always recognized, the price we pay for war and conflict. But it's interesting that early issues of the newsletters and whatever, talk a lot about, 1910, the Socialist Convention, and a position. There's not a single resolution against war, but it talks about a principle of opposing capitalist wars, of emphasizing the role of women in the fight for peace, and which was sort of precursor for the anti-war protests led by women in the, during World War I. Of course, as we all know, no one in this gathering needs to be reminded about how 1947 and the course of partition are in a way not just evoked, not just part of our history, but actively kept alive. I think that this is something that has been part of our regional politics, and that's something that these are scars we bear, whether we want to or not, whether we were part of that moment or not. And I think they have framed a lot of what is happening, including including nationalism, or the question of nationalism being complicated among feminists, which is the way I see it, and therefore a more status position or a more nationalistic position. It might be how I put it. But in the 1980s, it was interesting to see some of the links being drawn between increasing communalization, rising fundamentalisms, conflict and women's rights, and a sort of the connection with larger conflict. So, for instance, in 1985, and I'll just read a little sections, it says, we feel that communal politics has consequences for women over and above many others. We are not subjected to violence. We are not only subjected to violence in which we have no participation. Of course, now we don't have such a simplistic position or essentialized position about all women being actors of peace. We are unfortunately older and wiser. But the thing is that it talks very early on about facing in a violent situation, in a situation marked by conflict, how the violence on women in the street, in the neighborhood, in the home tends to get exacerbated in the face of impunity. And says that, when communal and religious identities are strengthened, there's an environment of fanaticism, which by 1999, around the Kargil, aggressions and counter aggressions, the connections between patriarchy and war were sort of more actively being linked in some of our writing, looking at religious fundamentalism and military aggression as two sides of patriarchy that aim to control and wield power over women and other oppressed sections. We know this very well. So, and then it talks about how, whether it was the struggle for abortion rights by women in the US or the West, or denial of education to women in Afghanistan, acid throwing attacks on young women to oppose the burqa, to impose the burqa in Kashmir, or attacks by the Hindu right on films like Fire. So there's a whole load of similarities or patterned patriarchy that we see, which are part of a similar kind of orchestrated campaigns of religious fundamentalism that seek to terrorize and control women. So we see violence, death, and destruction caused by wars as an extension of the violence we confront on a daily basis. And then is the aftermath of war and related crimes. Thousands of women living through the burden of bearing the honor of nation and community in war after war. The politics of such militarization has led to, and not just in India, not just in Pakistan, we are seeing that excessively across the world, to greater national and religious chauvinism built on mutual hostility. And this is particularly true in our case. And to a point where, and Sabha also referred to this, as did Rita in her introduction, where it becomes commendable to kill, humiliate, maim, threaten citizens of another country, of a religious group, of an ethnic community, or a nationality, in the name of preserving the unity of one's country. And such jingoism, as we've seen in India especially in the last decade and a half, has served those in power very well. I mean, in particularly, because we're living in a situation where you're distracting a local population from shrinking opportunities for survival, for livelihood, for life and living, for expression, for the right to speak, for the right to belong, all in the name of the nation. The trauma of demonetization or thali bajao, batti jalao kind of campaigns during the COVID campaign are just the most obvious examples of this kind of misdirection and deception. What these are reminders to people like us that while, that in a sense, nationalistic fervor, jingoism are in a way almost, and I'm going to use a really problematic term, like almost a sexy tool for mobilization. They have a certain buzz about it. They have a certain kind of role playing, and it plays in with the kind of popular jargon and the popular use of nationalism from everybody, from resident welfare associations to corporations to the state. So I think we need to see how the state and its power structures and this kind of jingoism is bleeding through social structures, right? And that, I think, becomes then the counter to what peace is, which is really, really hard, grungy, slow burn work, right? Because we are talking about an imagination of peace, which is much more than the absence of conflict, right? We're talking about building justice, we're talking about equality, we're talking about dignity, about security, and building it from the ground up. We're talking about caring for the weakest and the marginalized. We're talking about working to stop violence against women, violence against marginalized genders, economic disparity, lack of opportunity, educational and social structural barriers, repressive cultural norms, health, nutrition. These are crucial things of the quality of people's lives. So it's about caring about people more than corporations, preserving the richness of people and the planet more than your capitalist cronies. So I'm going to skip some of the part about Operation Sindoor, but that was something we spoke about in our joint statement. About the naming of the operation itself being profoundly patriarchal, right? And is sort of a reminder of the misogyny on both sides of the borders, right? And yet, when So in a way, Operation Sindoor weaponizes the pain of women, so to speak, or widowhood, of course, within a very Hindu framework. But at the same time, it sort of erases the pain. It reduces women to bodies on which these masculinist, nationalist fantasies of conquest, violence, rape, etc., are mounted. And what happens then in that kind of weaponization is we have a situation where if somebody doesn't play the script, even the wife of somebody who was killed, right? Like Himanshi Narwal, the widow of one of the victims of Pahalgam, when she actually, appealed, when she found the strength to appeal for peace and not rage, and ask people not to direct their rage against Kashmiris or Muslims, but then she's facing the violence, so I think that kind of punishment for not following the script, for not playing the nationalistic game, is something that we see consistently. 1 minute you're honored as the great victim, jiska sindoor ab mita hua hai, and the next minute when you don't play that perfect victim. And we've talked a lot about this as feminists around sexual violence, but when you don't play the national victim in the language of the nation
Uh,
state, then you are vilified, right? Am I running out of time, Rita?
sorry, Vani, you will. Yes, yes, I'm afraid
Yeah.
so.
No, no, that's okay. I'm not going to take very much longer. So, likewise was the case of another peace activist who was not an activist, but somebody called Deepak Kumar, who came out to, recently protect an elderly Muslim shopkeeper from a Hindutva mob. So the thing is that it's also that we need to look at what are the other things, because war is not just played out on the battlefields. And I'm not talking about cricket and cinema. I'm talking about things like after that Pahalgam attack, immediately the Indus water treaty was suspended. Hydroelectric projects and dams constructions were constrained. All short-term visas. All of these things. So it affects our lives in multiple ways beyond the battlefield, right? And what it does also is it creates the outsider within the nation. The Pakistani, the Bangladeshi, that is now the bogey within the nation. So we are also having so-called national borders being created within neighborhoods, within constituencies, citizenships being questioned. So, the war on terror or the war for the nation is being played out on its people, and there's no separating these. And I think this is the sort of core point that I do want to make. And yet, our fundamentalists actually have a lot in common. I'm just going to take the example briefly of the transgender bill. Okay, Pakistan to 2018.
Vani, you
brings in
really
the
will. Sorry, you really will have to close.
Okay, I'll just finish with this one thing to say that
Okay.
our fundamentalists have done the same things. They take away the same rights. If Pakistan took it away in 2023, India today has taken away recognition in 2026. So in a way, battles are not at par, but they are similar, and they're also being fought within. And what we want is peace and democracy, peace across, democracy within. And I think that's got to be the fight on which we strategize a lot more as feminists from across borders. I will stop now. And I hope that
Thank you.
wasn't too
So I'm
long.
sorry to cut you like this,
No, that's
but
fine.
otherwise we're not going. Yeah. Okay. But thank you very much for, in fact, some of the very insightful observations that you made, particularly about the use of militarized nationalism to misdirect, and the way that you linked everyday politics, the communal politics with, in fact, the larger macro issues of war, of border wars, and of interstate wars and so forth. But I mean, a lot to work through, and I'm glad for the recording. I'm going to ask now Tahira Abdullah to join us. Tahira, you're here, right? Yes. Yeah. Tahira,
I'm here.
Okay, great. Tahira is a human rights defender. She's a very long time member of the Pak India Forum. In fact, as she was informing us, she's also someone who is a very brave, very bold. In fact, we were trying to find out why she was arrested in both March as well as she said, a little earlier. I mean, she's not one to stop or to hold back, but she will be there to defend you and to defend the ideas that she stands for. Tahira, I'm not, because we are short of time, so please, what do you say about some of the lessons of war, issues of war, and feminist perspectives on these issues?
Thank you so much, Rita. Salam, namaskar, adab sabko. It's such a great pleasure to be here. Shah Sahab, मैं good to see you नहीं कह रही, मैं कह रही हूँ such a great pleasure to be here. There are so many eminent personalities here कि सबके नाम लेना तो मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल है, लेकिन क्योंकि सैयदा हमीद साहिबा ने नज़्मों के साथ शुरू किया था, मैं थोड़ा सा याद दिलाना चाहती हूँ कि in all the names that were taken of those who are no longer with us, I'm a founding member of the Pak India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy from Islamabad chapter. Sayyida ji, Admiral Ramdas, Dr. Mubashir Hassan और I.K. गुजराल साहब का नाम लेना बहुत बहुत अहम है. So मैं समझती हूँ कि when we do our roll call of honor, so हमारे luminaries हमें दीदी नहीं भूलती हमको, हमारी दीदी नहीं भूलती, प्यारी दीदी. She was the founding member of Pak India People's Forum and led us from the front. So I was honored and privileged to know her and to meet her many times, both in India and in Pakistan. That said, मैं नज़्म नहीं पढ़ूंगी सैयदा जी, आपके पास टाइम था, मेरे पास नहीं है, and I know how strict Rita is. So let me just start with फैज साहब ने कहा था, हम देखेंगे, लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे वो दिन कि जिसका वादा है. और वो दिन मेरे लिए वो होगा जब इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के बॉर्डर्स तो कायम रहेंगे as two sovereign countries, two separate countries, but in a South Asia free of war and conflict, free of hatred, and as Rita so eloquently said, मैं कोई दोहराना नहीं चाहती, repeat नहीं करूंगी, the films and the songs and what all we are seeing, it really makes us so sad. It's heartbreaking and heartrending. So I will not repeat anything that was said so eloquently by all the previous speakers. Sabah ke saath, exactly, we feel exactly the same way about Afghan refugees and Iranian women and feminism and patriarchy. So I'm going to go beyond that. मैं बस इतना कहना चाहती हूँ कि पाक इंडिया पीपल्स फोरम, does anyone have still maintain their copy of Lolly? You might. This was our
Yeah,
10th.
I have. Yeah.
10th. Ji. Thank you, Vani. Thank you, Sayyida ji. Rita. This was our 10th joint convention. And इसके अगर आप, I was just going through them this afternoon, the articles in it, और एक बात मेरे दिल में जाके बैठ गई. I don't know whether he's here. There are 74 people here. There were 76 a few minutes ago. Amit Chakraborty, our comrade from Kolkata, wrote an article titled, "They Are Like Us." His little son, 6-year-old son, said this after meeting a Pakistani at the Kolkata Joint Convention, India-Pakistan Convention. The father, Amit, our comrade, my friend, my very dear friend, asked his son, क्या ख्याल है तुम्हारा पाकिस्तानियों के बारे में? He simply responded as a little child, they're just like us. So थोड़े से छोटे से अल्फाज हैं, but profound and with a depth of meaning that we really need to think about. They're just like us. So lines in the sand and lines on the ground and lines on the earth may separate us, and they will, of course, they will continue to separate us as borders and frontiers. लेकिन just like us वाली बात हमें भूलनी नहीं चाहिए. The first decade was the most active PIPFPD. The second, due to circumstances and extraneous factors, totally outside PIPFPD's control. और third decade को तो आपके सामने है, हम ना मिलते हैं, ना आते हैं, ना जाते हैं, ना वीजा मिलता है, कुछ भी नहीं. So I think separately, maybe Rita, Sayyida ji, Lolly, Vani, Vijayan, I think we need to discuss that issue separately, perhaps in the near future. मैं एक और चीज भी कहना चाहती हूं कि कश्मीर का जो इश्यू है, it has been made a central sticking point between our two countries. So for me, I will give my suggested recommendations or solutions or whatever that sounds like a very arrogant word, but my humble suggestions. और वो ये है जो कि हमने बेंगलोर की कन्वेंशन में कहा था, फिर पेशावर की कन्वेंशन में कहा था, फिर बहुत सारे कन्वेंशन में हम कह चुके हैं, और वो ये है कि कश्मीर की जो डायलॉग डिस्कशन सेशन होना चाहिए, वो रेक्टेंगुलर टेबल नहीं चाहिए, स्क्वायर टेबल नहीं चाहिए, सर्कुलर टेबल भी नहीं चाहिए, हमें एक ट्रायंगुलर टेबल चाहिए, a tripartite triangular table. This is not a real estate problem between India and Pakistan. It is a human problem about and for and with the Kashmiri population on both sides of the line of control. So triangular table chahiye. I'm very clear about that in my mind. Iran mein jo abhi hua, thank you for everyone starting off with Mubarakbad to Pakistan. Bilkul theek hai. Pakistan facilitated, mediated, whatever the word you want to use, लेकिन साथ साथ और ममालिक भी थे और उनको भी क्रेडिट जाना चाहिए. I know China is not a popular country with feminists and human rights defenders and activists, but उन्होंने भी रोल प्ले किया, टर्की ने भी किया, इजिप्ट ने भी किया, ओमान ने भी किया, उज़्बेकिस्तान ने भी किया. I think we need to maybe acknowledge and recognize everyone. Something else I'd like to read out if possible. It's a tweet. I can share later. I'm very technologically challenged, as everyone knows. So maybe I can share it by WhatsApp and Rita can then share it with everyone. देखिए, diplomacy and foreign affairs में कामयाबी हासिल करना, kudos लेना, शाबाशी लेना, वाह वाह लेना, बहुत अच्छी बात है. And it was the need of the hour, and we were staring at the brink of World War III, staring down the abyss. बिल्कुल सही बात है. I am the last person to debate or dispute any of that. लेकिन साथ साथ आज सुबह डॉक्टर आतिफ मियां ने एक बहुत खूबसूरत ट्वीट भेजा. It's kind of long. I know Rita doesn't give anyone any leeway or margin. तो इसलिए मैं पूरा नहीं पढ़ूंगी. How Pakistan just made the world over $3.6 trillion richer. Trillion with a T. T for Tokyo. Or T for Tahira, if you wish. So as the world edged towards Trump 8 p.m. ultimatum that a whole civilization will die tonight, the poly market gave the world less than a 5% chance for a ceasefire. And then in a flurry of last-minute diplomacy led by Pakistan, the odds shifted from near impossibility, that was 5%, to 100%. And all parties acknowledged the role. Now, बहुत लंबा चौड़ा है, मैं नहीं पढ़ूंगी because I don't understand stock market, I don't understand global income and global trillions. But all I will say is that the successful diplomacy made a sharp jump of 2.9% in Standard & Poor 500 index around the ceasefire announcement. Global markets represent about $125 trillion. So a 2.9% jump represents a gain of 3.6 trillion. Shabash, Pakistan. Thank you, Pakistan. But look how Dr. Atif Mia ends, and this is my point. I hope Pakistan runs with this new identity by promoting peace, not only abroad, but also at home. That means moving away from politics of division and exclusion and treating every citizen as its own. I'm trying to show you this if anyone can read it. This is what Dr. Atif Mia wrote. Dr. Atif Mia himself belongs to a persecuted minority in Pakistan, of Pakistan. He had to be abroad now. So I think it's very important. As to Rita's instructions to talk about feminism and patriarchy and women, all I want to say is, where are the women? Why are the women absent at all peace tables everywhere, despite UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, dated October 2000? हम देखते हैं कि औरतें हर जगह मिसिंग हैं और टोटली एब्सेंट हैं, चाहे कश्मीर हो, अफगानिस्तान हो, पैलेस्टाइन हो, ईरान हो, यूक्रेन हो, सूडान हो, लेबनान हो, कोई भी मुल्क हो जहां पर पीस टॉक्स होनी है या डायलॉग्स होने हैं या निगोशिएशंस ही होनी है, टॉक्स अबाउट टॉक्स फॉर पीस, वहां पे औरतें मिसिंग हैं, यूएन तक में मिसिंग है, पीस कीपर्स में मिसिंग है, मीडिएटर्स में मिसिंग है. पाकिस्तान में वेयर आर द वुमेन? वी हियर 3 big names and then we have the foreign offices of all the countries involved. Where are the women? हम चाहते हैं कि औरतों को बहुत ज्यादा डाला जाए बीच में. प्रोटेक्शन, prevention of war, protection of women and children, participation in peace building, in relief and recovery, and above all, in protection from rape and sexual violence during a conflict. ये बहुत जरूरी है और ये हो नहीं रहा. हमारे तमाम ममालिक, I mean, why should I single out India only? Why should I single out Pakistan only? Every country is doing this, including the so-called theocratic countries and the so-called Islamist countries. हर कोई कर रहा है. मैं सिर्फ इजराइल को नहीं यहाँ पर. Israel, of course, is the worst offender since the 7th of October 2023 in the genocide and the sexual violence and the ethnic cleansing and the deliberate impregnation of Palestinian and Gazan women. तो ये बहुत वसी टॉपिक है, and I know that Rita is being polite and I'm going to see the raised finger in a minute or the raised hand in a minute. So बस मैं इतना कहना चाहती हूँ कि the feminization of poverty is another topic that the Pak India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy needs to flag for our meetings and for our discussions and our dialogues. Education is another one. And this is I know, Rita, that I have very little time left. So let me just, instead of speaking, let me just show and tell. Stand up for education. We have it in our constitution since 2010. The right to education is a fundamental human right. It's not happening. और जहां हो भी रहा है, वहां पर टेक्स्ट बुक्स एंड करिकुलम इतने आउटडेटेड और फरसुदा हैं, इतने as I wrote in my report in 2015, they are the textbooks of hate, not peace. Why are they the textbooks of hate, not peace? Can people see this, Rita?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is another subject that perhaps we need an entire Zoom webinar on. What are we teaching our children? Agar education is our last hope for building peace between India and Pakistan and around the world, what are we doing to talk about peace in our education? What are we doing to talk about interfaith goodwill and ethnic and sectarian respect for one another's beliefs and on lack of beliefs? You know, we could have a belief or not have. I'm almost done. For inclusion, for inclusionary policies and laws, for acceptance, for respect, for interfaith harmony and goodwill towards each other. I think that Iranian women have showed us that you can be a feminist, you can dissent, you can totally oppose theocratic mullaism and the ayatollahs, but when you are under attack by the mightiest nuclear power on earth, then you stand up and unite for, call it whatever you want. I call it for saving one's country. You could call it patriotism. Some might call it populism. Some might call it nationalism, which are negative terms. But we need to be very clear that I can be a feminist and I can stand up for my country when it's under attack and when it's under threat of total annihilation of a civilization that is 5,500 years old. So we need to strive not just for a reactivation. Thank you so much, Rita, and your entire comrades who have reactivated PIPFPD today. We also need to strive for reactivation of the government channels, the official channels of SAARC and SAFTA, the South Asia Free Trade Association, not just the non-government channels. I wish you good luck for the 18th and 19th of April, your Indian National Convention. We have not had a Pakistan National Convention for I think, over a decade now. And I'm going to end with Habib Jalib. अब दहर में बेयारो मददगार नहीं हम, पहले की तरह बेकस और लाचार नहीं हम, सब जुल्म करम जोर सितम पेश नजर हैं, ये वहम तुम्हारा है कि बेदार नहीं हम, आता है हमें अपने मुकद्दर को बनाना, तकदीर पे शाकिर पसे दीवार नहीं हम. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for reminding us about the complete absence of women in this entire month of war, and particularly in terms of the diplomats, except, of course, those in the European Union who sided with Israel and the US, or just abstained. But more importantly, I think we also need to recognize the spiraling of defense expenditure. I understand that Pakistan's defense expenditure jumped 66%. I'm sure that was an error, but India's by 14% and 25% in terms of capital outlay. India is the second largest importer of arms. Pakistan is the fifth. I wonder if, in fact, this is going to lead to greater expenditures and the denial of resources to health, to education. Of course, the issue of the kind of education is very important, but also the structures, where are the resources going to come from if they're going into defense expenditure? I'm going to ask Navsharan to join us. Navsharan is based in Delhi. Navsharan, yes, great. Navsharan has is a feminist. She's been very active in working on issues of informal labor. She's a researcher, a writer, and very much someone who is rooted in the cultural resistance of Punjab. You might have heard her or seen her in the forefront of, in fact, the farmers' agitation, and particularly the women farmers' agitation protests. A couple of, I think, 2022? 2021. So, Navsharan.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Pak India People's Forum, for giving this opportunity to come together. It's a critical time, and we meet at a time when the common people of both countries have been pushed into an unjust war. The speakers before me have so eloquently talked about various issues, Sabha, about the war, the emotional cost of it, and what we need to know in terms of what it is doing to us. I just want to make 2-3 points. One about the war, which I think expose the gap between this aggressor state's moral claims and the material interests that it was defending. Iran was attacked with a mission to liberate the people with regime change. It promised to liberate women, but it had nothing to do with women or how the country is governed, and we've seen this repeated time and again. The true reality is before us. It's a war of plunder. It's about Iran's energy resources, its nuclear advancement, and its unwavering support for the Palestinian peoples, first and foremost, to resist as pillars of the axis of resistance. It's an unjust war, and we, the people of India and Pakistan, have been dragged into it. Over 9 million Indian workers work in the Gulf countries. The latest figure we saw, over 5 million Pakistanis work there. And imagine these many million working class families whose lives and future are now at risk. And the tragedies are actually multifold. In India, we have a leadership which, in the name of maintaining calibrated neutrality, cowered at the sight of the powerful. The political rhetoric of 56 inches shrunk when the West Asia war spilled into our own backyard, and we did not blink. Let me remind something that is, I'm just unable to forget. Like many other war stories which have come, that on 4th March, a US submarine torpedoed and sank the Iranian Iris Dana in the Indian Ocean. The ship was attacked while returning from a naval exercise in India. 84 sailors died in its waters, and India maintained neutrality. We did not reach out to rescue. We failed all moral, ethical accountability, and we reneged on humanitarian responsibilities. हमने इंसानियत का बिल्कुल छुरा मार दिया इंसानियत की पीठ पे by not even uttering a word. And Indian media was full of the day after the attack of the torpedoed ship, how the sailors were returning home, taking presents for their families, shopping in India, and they were ambushed, and in India just maintained neutrality. It's a tragedy. It's a war tragedy, which we are going to live for the rest of our lives. Indian state continues to project a strong leader using this outside threat to crush rights and freedoms internally. External conflicts and disasters, as we know, are always useful to justify the need for a strong internal, allowing the state to arrest, muzzle, crush, and all dissent. And we saw it at the time of COVID-19 disaster, how the disaster was used to suppress protest, and activists were detained under acts like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act for just protesting against something like the Citizenship Amendment Act. I see that West Asian conflict is again creating such possibilities for people in India who think and who make connections between what is going on externally and in the country. In such a situation, when I was asked to speak here, I was thinking, what should the ordinary people do in times like this? What do we do? What are we going to discuss in times like these? And all we thought is that we could come out in support of peace. And our call for peace is not, what I'm talking about, is not a diplomatic stance we are pushing. For me, for us, it is the survival for the vast majority. We need peace for a democratic survival of this country and for its working people. We ask for peace to disrupt the deep private life of militarization and reject the claim that war is just or the invading power is a liberator. So if we ask for peace, we call into question the marauding state's legitimacy to enter sovereign territories, to abduct, kill, loot in the name of neutralizing drug chains or nuclear threats. And ordinary people realize it. And I'm just going to give you 2, 3 examples on what people do and what it means in such a situation. And how do they realize? Let me share with you that as Operation Sindoor was raging, not everyone in India was cheering. There were farmers' union in what we called in Punjabi, Charda Punjab, the eastern Punjab. Um, the union started peace marches. They put on hold their protest for legal guarantee of MSP that they were fighting for. They were protesting to gain a promise which was made by the government but never fulfilled. They were protesting, but they put on hold their protest and said that their own sons were at the front line, but waging war was not an answer for act of terrorism. जंग किसी मसले का हल नहीं. जंग किसी मसले का हल नहीं. Unions held peace marches in villages across Punjab under the slogan जंग नहीं, अमन. Somebody's is the camera being
No, it's okay. Sometimes
okay.
the words get eaten.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Okay. So the unions held these marches in villages, and they said "Jang nahi aman." They marched to district headquarters to give memorandum to authorities asking that government must initiate talks with Pakistan and not escalate conflict, putting ordinary people at risk. This was extraordinary. When I shared this with people, many said, "How could they do it? How could farmers not stand with the nation as the nation was taking revenge for what Pakistan terrorist groups had done, and Pakistan was protecting them?" But they stood their ground. They even organized, they were planning to organize a very big march, a peace march, but then escalation stopped. And then that march, the big march did not happen. Similarly, we've been talking about Vani and Sabah mentioned the feminist solidarity across India and Pakistan border for peace and the joint statement which came out. For me, for like all my colleagues who were working to get the statement signed, approved, agreed upon, it was difficult. There were differences, and some of them which Tahira talked about. Kashmir remained a very significant difference in how Kashmir is articulated. Is it Pak-occupied Kashmir or Azad Kashmir? I mean, these were the things which were discussed, talked about. There were many other issues, but what I would like to say is that the feminist engagement with nationalism, which we are saying that we should have that conversation, but this conversation, which began at that time last year, around the same time, it was like any other conversation. Like I've been part of joint statements of non-feminists, of men also, where the same issues have been coming up. So it was, yes, feminist, but also the question of nationalism, which continues to be raised in times like these. But I would like to actually emphasize the remarkable display of solidarity also. Within 2 days, I think it was less than 48 hours when we had hundreds of people signing, and even later on kept saying that they wanted to sign the statement and didn't get a chance. And what was the appeal saying? It was calling for immediate de-escalation. It was calling for dialogue. It was calling for justice. And while it condemned the terror attack in Pahalgam, it was very categorically said that such attacks were cynically used to inflame communal tensions and justify militarization while silencing those who call for peace. And they condemned the both, as we talk of the causes of conflict, the feminists agreed. They condemned the retributive decision by both countries to cancel medical and short-term visas, which caused immense distress and led to family separation. We saw stories of women separated from their children or children separated from their mothers on both sides of the border. And the joint statement emphasized that wars have no winners, something which Sabha also mentioned. There are no women, no winners. And when women across border united to call for de-escalation, there was something in that joint statement which revealed their commitment to peace and nothing more. It was not Pakistan, it was not India, it was those who signed actually said that they were committed to peace. And this was their first commitment. And also, let me conclude with the third example, which on these questions, on these divisions, which we have managed to bridge through our joint actions of building people solidarity. Many of these things don't make it in the mainstream media, and stories of people's solidarity remain hidden. So that's why it's important on such platforms to recall those stories. In July 2023, during the floods in East Punjab, Indian Punjab, which was caused by the overflowing of Satluj River, Pakistan facilitated the safe passage of flood waters by keeping the floodgates of the Sulaiman Ki headworks open. India released at that time excess water into the Satluj, causing flooding downstream on the Pakistan side. A Pakistan official told Al Jazeera that there was no intention of maliciousness on India's part. The water had to eventually flow downstream to Pakistan. And that's it. So Pakistan allowed the gushing water to flow into its territory, which helped mitigate the gravity of the flooding in southern Malwa, in Charda, Punjab, but flooded many villages of the Lenda, Punjab. Social media was documenting the disaster and the rescue continuously, but there was no formal thank you for the Sulaimaniki Gate opening by the Indian government, following the long-standing diplomatic deep freeze policy and zero engagement since in Indian official stance, Pakistan harbors terrorism. But touched by the gesture, Punjab's Sufi singer Kanwar Garewal released a song titled Shukriya, Gratitude, in the same month. He expressed gratitude to the people of Pakistan for this gesture with lyrics that roughly translate, we are not sending you water, not only sending you water, but love too. So I'll just say it in Punjabi, what the song said. ਸਾਡੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਵੀਰਿਓ ਲਹਿੰਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਹੀਰਿਓ ਸਿਜਦੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਤਕਾਰ ਭੇਜ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੱਲਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਿਆਰ ਭੇਜ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ the lyrics go.
Navsharan.
I'm concluding. So it was an emotional response, but the song stood out as a pillar of humanitarian support, peace, and a commitment to common cultural heritage. Kanwar wept as he sang the song, and the listeners wept with him. I think the policy analyst might struggle to recognize these expressions of solidarity and desires for peace, yet it is precisely these actions and platforms that inspire and sustain hope. And I believe that it is this hope which leads us where Vijay began saying salam to Iran and salam to its jazba. It's the jazba of the fight which matters. And it's the examples like these, platforms like these, which instill us with this jazba. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for, in fact, reminding us about these small acts and not so small acts of solidarity, of assertion of humanity, of common humanity. And in fact, I think it's important for PIPFPD to document some of these acts of solidarity. And I mean, you've mentioned one. I know of 2, 3. So I think we should do that. And also for sharing the protests that took place in Punjab. I hope you're going to sing the song for us during the National Convention.
No, I don't sing.
Okay, well, I'm going to, okay, I'm now going to call upon Rukshanda Naz to join us. We've had a minor casualty, Mazhar Abbas, who was to join us. He was called away by a TV channel, and given what is happening in Islamabad, and he being a senior journalist, I can understand that he felt that he had to go there. He did say he would join us if he could. But we're very privileged to have my old friend Rukshanda Naz. Rukshanda Naz is a human rights defender, a lawyer. She's been ombudsman for harassment of women in the workplace in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. She is a Pashto human rights defender. You may have also come across her name. The Indian side may have come across her name during the release of Hamid Ansari, a young man who went to Pakistan. I don't know, Pakistan or the border, Pakistan-Afghanistan border. It was described as a sort of he fell in love with an online relationship and got trapped. It's because of Rukshanda that today he's back home in Bombay. So Rukshanda Naz. And Rukshanda and I have been together in multiple fora, women's forums, Pak India Forum, as well as, well, multiple, as I said.
Thank you, Rita. My first interaction with Rita was Ashok Kumar case in '99, when I just started my practice, because I met with Tapan Bose and Tapan Bose introduced me Rita. So, this is my interaction with the forum, because in that forum I was trying to meet people how I can get support for Ashok Kumar and his 3 kids. Anyhow, the people from both sides, those are celebrating Vaisakhi. So we yesterday, it was a great day for us, because the people in Islamabad, they were enjoying their holiday because of this peace talk, and we were celebrating Vaisakhi in uh, uh, Provincial Assembly Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa the Sikh community got one big hall, and where we had Vaisakhi celebration, because most of the people, they are planning to move Panja Sahib, and for that reason we had a day earlier for that Vaisakhi. So congratulations and Mubarakbad ke jo isko celebrate kare. And the second good news for us was, because you might know, there is an operation in Tira Valley. We already been through with a military operation in Bajor. So with this Iran-US war, people were concerned. It's not mean we were not concerned about Iran, but we were concerned for ourselves because already in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we were struggling with our Tira IDPs, and then there is a constant conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan. We were so used to with India-Pakistan conflict, that was conflict with Afghanistan was is a shock for us, for many, because we are living together since ages. Our families, because some of our family members, they live in Afghanistan. There are marriages between Afghan and Pakistani. Even in my shelter, still in Mera Ghar, my shelter name is Mera Ghar, we have 95% women in the shelter are Afghans. So we were so scared how we will manage with this Pakistan policy shift towards Afghanistan. And at the same time, when this Iran situation, the war started, it was uh, more concern for us for our being living on the very close to the border, because I'm speaking from my home, and my home is just 20 minutes away from the Landi Kotal, which is the entry point for the most of Afghan refugees from there. So, this is the state of our human rights in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and then the Balochistan. Even in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we are hosting some of the IDPs and the refugees, both from the Balochistan in Peshawar, in Nowshera, in other cities in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So, this is basically when everybody asks us about the impact of war. So we always say every time when there is something either in the name of military operation or the tension between both the country, so we prepare ourselves to receive any sort of reaction. For example, if there is a blast in Afghanistan, so people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we expect there will be a blast second day in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The same with the tension with India, because if something happen in India, so then we are very much ready to listen something happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then the raw involvement, because the popular media, it's very easy before having any investigation, because we experience this both side the media, they quickly blame Indian media, blame Pakistani, and Pakistani media blame Indian. So this is very painful for us sometimes, because we are living not with our Afghan friends and families. At the same time, our ties with our Indian friends are so strong, because the recently Hamid Ansari, when he got married, and I was unable to travel from Pakistan because I was waiting for since into 2018, when he traveled from Wagah border to India. So I promised the family, inshallah, I will be there on his marriage. And then in November 2025, I missed the marriage. This is the first time. I was the one, Rita knows and many other people knows. I traveled through Dubai, I traveled through Qatar, but this time, because I'm the current situation, and even at that time there was a visa issue, and luckily I had a good relation with Indian embassy, so every time I got visa. But in the current regime, the people we are also scared. How? Because I was more scared. Uh, I will get the visa, but might be the Hamid family. they faced some problems. So I missed his marriage and I was very sad. So, this is basically the way we are divided in both sides. I think there are several reasons which we need to address because, between India and Pakistan, there is a third force involved because the Pakistan and India, they become their alliance with US, their alliance with Israel also determine the internal relations with an external relation with each other, with their alliances. I think this is the time we should raise this issue. Our government should be they decide on the basis of people wishes. We want our government should decide their priority with their people's demand. And the second relaxing point for us related to this Islamabad peace talk, because the changing role of Pakistan, we appreciate because the from both the side, and particularly even the higher number of people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we were the fuel. We were used as a fuel in Afghan war. Our youth was killed in Afghanistan during jihad. Our youth killed with this militancy in the conflict area. 2 weeks ago, there was a huge jirga. Unfortunately, I was the only woman in that jirga. The tribal leaders were get together and they were talking about the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And Tyra truly indicated this issue. Either these talks are happening informal level or the talks are happening with the governments, women role is missing. So in that jirga, one was the issue was we said we are very concerned about Gaza, we are very concerned about Iran, but one of our tribal leaders said, since Afghan war, if people count killing of people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and then the second number on the Balochistan, our number will be higher because our people are dying since 40 years in this region and the killing is on. So, this is the dilemma for us because the people in this region, but thank God, with this current policy shift of government of Pakistan, coming up as a mediator, at least we say thank God कि हमसे तो जान छूट गई ना because otherwise then there will be songs and people in the name of state or the nationalism and then the protection of because हम हर वक्त इस्लाम के लगता है कि वो खाली मुसलमान पाकिस्तान में ही रह गए हैं. Why we are protector of every Muslim country or every Muslim issue? Why not we consider these issues as the human crisis? Because this is the human crisis and humanitarian concern for us, but somehow this is the one of the issue for us. At least now our government will consider ourselves for doing some other developmental work for our youth or allocating some resources for the development of the area rather than the money for the more military experiment in the name of exercises or more buying more military equipments. And to conclude my point, I raise another thing because, I think we need to work or interact more and more because, there is a huge gap between us because you are going to hold this convention, and we are missing here. There is a missing link now between us, because within the feminist group, there is a very less interaction, because we grew up where listening to Kamla Basin, and because there and in this part of South Asia, Nigar Ahmed, and but Asma Jahangir, and I think this is the name. And if I don't mention Saida ji, because I'm a great admirer for her, the way she talk and recite poetry. Our youth is going to miss this, because we why we feel we should engage with us. And Rita, I just text you because today there was a death in the family, and then I rush back because I don't want to miss this interaction. So, but our youth is just over occupied with this social media propaganda, because the social media propaganda is so powerful. So our youth will be going, they're going to lose that opportunity which we had listening to our legendary women feminist collective from India and Pakistan and even Sri Lanka, because I experienced all.
Rukshanda, you'll have to close.
I'm just closing. So, in this feminist collective, India and Pakistan is the main driving force, because if you count the women took initiative for this collective interaction is between India and Pakistan, and then they include others. So I think we need to think about how we can increase and how we can uh, challenge this border closer for human rights activists or a peace activist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rukshanda, for sharing with us in fact, for you, from a ground, in fact, the ground situation, the importance of the ceasefire, and particularly the emergence of Pakistan as the mediator and the promise of peace, what it means for, in fact, people living in these areas, which are usually used to mobilize, to fight, as you said, in the name of Islam. But I'm going to now ask Nupur Basu to join us. Nupur I'm sorry, you are the last speaker, but certainly not the least. Nupur is a journalist. She has been a print journalist, and then an audiovisual journalist, had worked with NDTV for many years, and then became a documentary filmmaker. Her particular, she's particularly distinguished by the fact that she has worked in all the countries of South Asia, where she was filming on the impact of satellite TV on people. And the book, I believe, or rather the films are there. So would you share with us and bring, in fact, since you are a professional media person, would you share with us some aspects also, bring in a media lens for us? You're unmute yourself.
Sorry. So I've listened in rapt attention to everyone for the last 2 hours. Just amazing conversations about what times we are going through. So basically, I think, the best time to be a journalist is in the times of greatest oppression. And therefore, the best time to talk most loudly about peace, in case anyone questions why you are talking about peace at this time, is in times of meaningless wars, honestly. Okay, now I will do what Rita has asked me to do. Start off straight away with my journey into Pakistan and actually all 5 countries when I made a documentary film on the impact of satellite television. And this is a flashback 27 years back. May I take you there? Okay, I'm going to do that. And I traveled in Pakistan from Karachi to Lahore. In Peshawar, I was covering a very unique aspect where they were burning television sets. So that was my sort of cue to go on that I picked up, spoke. There were so many people that I spoke to on that trip, whether they were media editors or people, cultural people. And one thing that they all said about the Kargil war was that India won the media, India won the Kargil war merely because they won the media war. This was something that I heard constantly. Now, you can have different opinions on that. Of course, they said India had played a very jingoistic coverage, done a jingoistic coverage, and won that media war. You can have different opinions on it, but the thing to do is, fact is that Kargil conflict was satellite television's first war in the region. And the thing to analyze is, what did the advent of satellite television do to cover, to the coverage of conflicts between India and Pakistan? I'm staying a little rooted in my talk to relations between our 2 countries, how media change the nature important, and it's actually a matter of a great study. I have now grade, and I can no longer do that kind of scholarship border in looking into this. How have our governments leveraged that to their advantage, this conflict, to keep the conflict between our 2 countries simmering and occasionally exploding as it has done in recent times? And I need not mention the occasions, we all know them, and they have been oft repeated in the discussion in the last 2 hours. Conflict played out in the borders, and one read about it in the newspapers the next morning. Now you have the conflict and the sheer analysis of it brought right into your drawing rooms, in fact, into your bedrooms, 24/7. The relative distance between the next morning's paper and the live coverage on the idiot box in perpetuity, 24/7, is an absolute game changer for us. This, in the last 30 years, has actually resulted in the kind of situation where we are in, where we're not talking to each other, we're not issuing visas to one another. Effortlessly, I traveled in 1999 across your country, and now I cannot even dream of going there, or any of us, in fact. Editors and journalists would come across the border on both sides to talk and meet. They are the influencers of the kind of democracies that we should have, and they are not able to meet because they do not get the visas. It's not as if, TV, I don't want to sound negative. It's not as if they only did negative coverage. In fact, the whole point of storytelling on television, there were also some very nice moments. And you remember that Lahore bus ride that our former Prime Minister Vajpayee took, and then the puppy jhappi on the other side with Nawaz Sharif. All that was documented. That was a moment of celebration, of a possibility. Then I'm not going into that. There is no time for that. I remember a story we did on NDTV on a very personal scale, where there was this lady, there was this little girl, lady, I'm saying she was just a 6-year-old girl. Her name was Noor, and she had come for her operation. We covered her from day one, her surgery, her talking to the doctors, talking to the family, seeing her through her recovery, and then actually walking with her, going with her to the journey, to the border. And then what happens at the border? our correspondent for NDTV, therefore in Islamabad, the Munizai Jahangir. Those were the days that we have correspondents there in your country reporting for an Indian channel. We shouldn't biased, and therefore we wanted everyone to report out of their countries for us. And therefore Munizai then taking that little child Noor along and covering her. It was a moment in, it was a real moment in television. It was a huge prime time success story of just storytelling about an ordinary girl
Nupur, may I, sorry to just
and
stop
an
you.
ordinary family.
There is a, sorry, Nupur, can I just stop you for a minute? I think we're having some trouble with the screen freeze.
Okay.
But other than that, can you also perhaps, you are based in Bangalore, and it's a location where you're not so centrally influenced
Right.
by the jingoism in Delhi. Could you perhaps
I just
also
told you about
factor
the
that?
screen in our bedrooms. We are, of course, influenced by jingoism everywhere. So, you know, and one is very much part of watching that and going through that. Yeah, but do complete your question.
No, merely in terms of I meant the media lens also in terms of the coverage of the present situation.
Oh, the present situation, I think it's been very well covered that we are actually in a state of where we are arguing on television channels about we just being a little petty about how Pakistan has got a diplomatic win, and whether, as you know, how in the past, how another speaker mentioned, are they a courier or is this really a negotiating ploy for them? How did India miss that opportunity? Instead of just saying, thank God, somebody is doing it. And as the speaker just before me said, that now we can hold Pakistan to task and say, you better not start bombing Afghanistan because you are a peace negotiator. So all the you know, petty sort of dialogues continue. There's very little interaction, as I said, between journalists of both the countries. I saw Rajdeep talk to Hamid Mir yesterday, and where they were trying to discuss this issue, trying to stay away from rhetoric, both of them trying to be as objective as possible, but that's not what you will see on many other channels. So the hawkishness continues. I just wanted to mention one fact that, you know, all of us at this time can say that, okay, we are all, Pakistan is doing this. And earlier, did Trump claim that he had caused the ceasefire between us? All that was written about, talked about. But the thing is, are we seeing that we are being misused? You know, that we are actually playbooks for the West. South Asia has become a playbook for the West, where they, you know, they play the chessboard and tell us, oh, today you are the favorite and you do this. Tomorrow you are the favorite and I love you and you are a great guy and you are my friend. So, you know, and we are allowing this and we are like pawns in their hand. And this is something that we need to really really look at and face, and media ought to question. But unfortunately, that is coming. There are media groups who are questioning. It's not as if we have only a rhetorical and sort of jingoistic media. We do have people who criticize and critique. The other thing is, Rita, you talked about the jingoistic films, the propaganda films, what is doing of our channel. You know how India bans all the channels of Pakistan, Pakistan bans all the India channels, and that's an ongoing thing that goes beyond conflict times. You know, so I mean, at all times, visas, as you all have discussed, these are not issues which ought to be raised by the government, by the media, to the government, asking questions, even about Afghanistan, for example. I've been following that story for the last 5 years, ever since Taliban walked in, trying to get Afghan journalists out of Kabul. The doors were slammed in our country for them, in other South Asian countries, Nepal, Sri Lanka. Pakistan took them in and then they treated them badly. And now, of course, we are seeing what is happening there. So, at the end of the day, South Asia is in tatters. And for heaven's sake, SARC is dead. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody is ever saying anymore that we need to revive SARC. As some of our speakers here have said that. But is this discussion even happening in the media? It is not. And these real questions, which ought to be asked to bring people to people contact, to so that visa regimes are opened up and people can travel to other countries, each other's countries. That is simply not happening, and these questions are not being. So, in this atmosphere, can we really ignite the people movement for peace in India and Pakistan? Is it time you can have a meeting? I remember attending that lovely party in some farmhouse, and it was just amazing what was happening. She meeting Shima Kirmani and others there. But now, the present times, the media is simply not asking the right questions, whether it is on this side of the border. And I think we have a more prolific media, and we should be asking those bigger and larger questions, more critical of what the government is not doing. And we are not doing that, especially on television media, which is in everybody's bedrooms, as I said. And I do not get to see Pakistan channels now, so I'm not sure what exactly. I believe they are testing with
Okay, Nupur, I think you'll have to close now.
This is what we need to figure out. I'll just end with one thing that I remember the owner of Dawn, Hamid Harun, has said in my satellite film, and he had said that as long as Western boardrooms decide the agenda of our newsrooms and our entertainment industry, we in South Asia will remain in a forever conflict. I'll just leave you with these thoughts for the moment.
Thank you so much. And I'm now going to, time is running short, but I am going to open it up. And I did promise that Lolly, who has been one of the very, very long time members of the Pak India Forum, would be given a chance to speak. So Lolly, you have the floor. This is now open forum. Anybody who wishes to speak, but please be brief so that we can get more people to speak and hear more people.
Thank you, Rita. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having initiated this absolutely scintillating and also moving event this evening. I can't tell you how important it has been to reconnect with so many people that one has known and worked with over the last several years. I know time is short, so all I actually want to add at this point, I am going to be meeting many of you next week. I am traveling up to Delhi after a long, long while, primarily to be part of this convention that we are finally putting together. And a big congratulations to all of you for having actually, managed to pull it off. I just wanted to say that I am agreeing with so many of the sentiments, the emotions, the anger, the hopes that have been expressed here today. Somewhere I just feel that we are at a moment where we need to push once again for reviving the dialogue between India and Pakistan, as tough as it might be. Somewhere I think that the kind of events that we have seen unfolding just so close to us provides a kind of an atmosphere where more and more people who are saying we've got to put an end to this. How do we revive the fact that we have to begin closer to home in South Asia, between India and Pakistan? And what do we do to try and make that happen? I just want to quote something that cheered me up, with all the negatives that have come through on media and social media and so on. Shashi Tharoor, who has always been a somewhat controversial figure, had an article day before yesterday in the Indian Express. Essentially, what he's saying is regarding the fantastic achievement of Pakistan having acted as mediator. I'm just quoting from him. If Pakistan succeeds, India should be among the first to celebrate. Celebrating a neighbor's mediation does not diminish our standing. In a nuclear-armed neighborhood, a win for stability is a win for everyone. And what he said is just so wonderful, that India must stand for peace, whoever the broker may be. Somewhere for me, these words resonate. I think that we need to discuss when we are there together next week. How do we actually bring together more voices, more people to take this initiative for reviving dialogue and to say, well, until we do that and build a strong, harmonious, communication, easy South Asia, we do not want to end up with what we have seen happening recently in West Asia. So I just wanted to say that. I could go on talking. There's so much to say. And I have Ramu's portrait behind me, and I keep thinking, what would he say at a time like this? And I found myself permanently on the kind of intersection between military, between women, and between the peace movement. So I'm just hoping that we will be able to infuse new energy, come up with ideas. What is it that we can do to make use of this juncture? And people like, the Tharoors of this world, who I think have hit on something which resonates with each one of us. Thanks again. I won't make this too long, but thank each one of you. And it's just been wonderful, energizing to somebody who's often, I've had many sleepless nights in deep depression in this last 10 days, but this has been just great. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Lolly. And thank you for actually inspiring us to think that maybe this will be the catalytic moment for the re-emergence of a peace constituency in South Asia. Do I see a show of hands or people who would like to intervene? Otherwise, I'm going to ask Bina Sarwar, who is also on my to call list. Bina?
Hi, Rita. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And thank you all for organizing. This is wonderful. बहुत मजा आया लोगों की बातें सुनकर और सईदा आपा को बहुत अरसे के बाद देखा. Many of you, I'm not going to name all of you. Nupur, seen you after many, many years. Rukshinda ji, always wonderful to hear you. Tahira, so inspiring, all of you. Nafsharan ji and all of you. इसमें जो बातें की गई हैं इसमें मैं don't really have much to add except solidarity and to take forward this idea of South Asia peace, which many of you here are from part of SAPAN already, and we had a lovely video of Shima Kirmani just posted today on our YouTube that I had done some time back, but we just posted it today. Basically trying to bring forward this whole narrative of South Asia, regionalism, solidarity, and peace. And we do uphold the objectives of SARC, and we have been, for those of you who don't know, we have been we've had several sessions on SARC itself, and we've been raising this narrative constantly, and we do it also through SAPAN News, which is a syndicated features service. And anybody here who'd like to write for us, please email us, pitch us. And thank you, Saidapa. I'll stop. Up muted hai.
Anyone? Thank you, Bina. Anyone? I mean, maybe I'm not able to see.
Can I say a word?
I may not. Yeah, Shima.
Yeah, I just thank you for everything, and it has, as Lolly said, it has been heartwarming and cheered us up this whole conversation. Oh, I only want to say one word because I know we're very late, and that is that at the next convention, when you people are getting together in Delhi, I just feel that it is very, very important for all of us there as well as here to somehow to think of ways of bringing in younger people into our fold. I mean, we are all of us are the same old friends talking since a long time, and I just feel that it is so important that we bring in new blood, new young people, the new generation, because they must. They have to take it all forward, and we've been doing. I think everyone's done a great job, but yeah, that's all I wanted to share. That let's think about it. How to involve younger people into this dialogue of peace and unity. And I know they're interested. They are interested. Young people of India, young people of Pakistan do want to get together. So just wanted to share that thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Vasanti Raman.
Rita, Vasanti just called that she's unable to maybe unmute herself. I'm not sure, but Khabar Mumtaz is also joined. If you can also.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Khabar Mumtaz.
Rani, please unmute yourself. Abhi, she was just here a minute ago, and she was commenting on the chat as well. She might have stepped out.
Khabar would be.
She's here.
If she can, yeah, Khabar is here.
Oh.
Khabar, aap boliye, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
There she is.
Hello. Yes, I've been listening in. I was a bit late in joining, but I've listened to everyone and feel very reflective as well as energized. So constantly in my mind, the question arises, how best do we get across to others? I mean, all of us who know each other, even if we don't meet each other often enough, it's easier for us to reconnect. But to get new, younger people together, what would be the best strategy is that keeps coming to my mind. And as Shima said, we need younger people of different ages to get connected. And we've tried that in Sapan and successfully, where we've got young people to initiate discussion, decide what they want to discuss. But this needs to continue. Because if we cannot meet personally, at least virtually we can, and we should make our efforts to do that. And there are some efforts, some areas where people can get together, like in Nepal, for instance, Nepal, the Himal documentaries and film shows and all those things. Somehow we have to find out how to connect more, because we've seen that people's voices, if they collectively raise the same issue again and again, it has an impact.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you. Do we have any young people? Is Professor Amina Hussain here? Yeah, Vinod Mumbai.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Adab, Vinod. Wonderful.
Adab.
Wonderful to see you, Vinod.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see everyone and to connect. I'm sitting in the Philippines right now, and it's very late. So I'm just here temporarily for a few days. And it's wonderful to hear all the expressions of solidarity in this time. I mean, for those of us, for me, Lahore is always a watan since I was born there. But, it's important to bring younger people somehow we try to connect. And there's one suggestion that I've had, and I've written about it a little bit. It's that the common problems we face, one major problem across the belt running from Peshawar, Lahore, New Delhi, all the cities of the north of the Indian subcontinent, the air pollution is really one of the major health problems, and it needs to be tackled professionally on a country to country basis in solidarity with all people of scientific and all the other talents that we have in South Asia. It can be a point to connect with each other on common problems. Now, Sharon talked about the floods. That's another major issue. But this question, especially in Delhi, is very acute, and it's been talked about. So I'm hoping that some sort of effort, maybe we can do it in Sapan sometime, or in other venues. But I hope that these solidarities translate into some concrete actions that are kind of not outside governments completely, but have little to do with the posturing that takes place among governments, and something that deals with the concrete reality of people's lives, people's health, people's air that we breathe every day. Thank you so much for letting me listen to the wonderful speakers. Thank you.
Anyone else? Maybe somebody younger?
I think we have to invite younger people to get them to speak.
Rita, on the chat, there is Mani, if I'm pronouncing it correct. They want to speak.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Somebody has to unmute them. Arun, if you can unmute them.
No, everyone can unmute and start the videos.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Hi. I'm delighted to be here. I'm speaking from London. I've got a bookshop called Shalimar in London. We've been going for 52 years and we specialize on South Asia. And I'm really, really pleased to tell you that it's bringing young people together, whether they are from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from India. They are hungry for information, to reconnect with their histories. And it is just amazing to see it happening. It didn't happen with their parents' generation, but it is certainly happening this time. And we are trying our best to try and bring them together in solidarity for Palestine as well. So that is good news that I wanted to report to all of you. I see some familiar faces like Rita, who I met about 40 years ago. And Vasanti, of course, is a dear comrade of mine. So thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Vasanti, is Vasanti back? Please go ahead.
I think there's somebody who's come online.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ji, adab and namaste to all the wonderful listeners and the host. Thank you for arranging this session. It is very wonderful to listen to the wonderful speakers and participants here. I just would like to add a small point that yes, young generation is very much, is very much hungry for the information, as earlier the ma'am said. very much hungry and very much would like to get mingle with the issues and wants to know the information and wants to know everything about India and Pakistan. But and myself, my family lives in India also, and my sister lives in India. My maternal paternal family, they are in India. So all I want is no borders. We can just go like we are going in our neighbors, and meeting friends and meeting the family. So just hoping for peace and happiness across the world, across the globe, and especially in this region. And yes, people in India and Pakistan, they both are waiting to see each other, but the governments of these countries are, I don't know what do they want. So peace and happiness for everyone.
I think
Where
it
are
is
you located?
I
Where
am
are
in
you
Karachi.
located?
I am in Karachi, and I am working with the Tehreek-e-Insaf Cultural Action Group, and working as an activist for almost more than 10 years.
Wow. And what's your
I'm
name?
Shima I am Anwar Sheikh, and I am
Ah,
Shima Kirmani's student.
okay.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, yes. There are a couple of hands. Evita, can you help me on this?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ayushi Malik. I come from Jammu Kashmir in India. First of all, I would like to say thank you for each one of you, like to arranging this. I joined late, but it's been such an absolute pleasure hearing all of you speak such wonderful things. And yeah, it's anyway. I have met PJNG. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and it's wonderful to see him here as well. Anyway, I wanted to share that one thing about India and Pakistan, me coming, my grandparents were from Peshawar, and I just got to know about it when I had gone to Punch to report on the shellings and the deaths that had happened in India, Indian side. Um, so there I had gone to Punch for the first, like after a really long time, and I talked to so many people there about the border, about so many people who had left their homes and whose homes are vacant and now they have left to Pakistan side. And I would like to say that, it's like people, they want to be together. They want to talk to each other because they relate to each other so much. Our languages are same. Our gestures are same. Even the curse, like how we curse each other, it's just all similar, and it's sharing. Like we are just sharing so much beyond just community, beyond it's everything that is made out of us. So that was the first time also when I also got to know about my grandparents and how their partition had happened, how they came to India. And then I went on to see like how people used to come and meet each other until it was up until COVID, families used to come and they used to meet each other. They could visit India and Pakistan. And now things are so bad that people like us who want to meet each other, it's not happening. And we want to go. We talk to so many people in those the older people who shared their stories of how they went to Pakistan and they met someone who from their family lineage and they touched them, and how eyes just like their eyes were just filled with tears for so much love for something that is so distant. So anyway, I just wanted to share my thanks to all of you, and I am in fact traveling to Delhi right now. I don't know if I will be able to meet you for the convention, but I want to express my gratitude to all of you.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Yes.
This is Dr. Nizamuddin, Muhammad Nizamuddin. It's first time I heard all of you. Very, very committed, good speeches and good discussions. I really enjoyed it. I hope I'll be able to join again. But really, it was nice to hear so many seasoned voices to talk about peace and harmony in the neighboring countries. Is what we need. We have suffered a lot already. We should find a way, break these barriers, break these borders, and come together. My last visit to India was 2009, and I could not go after that. So really, I missed the opportunity to go to India, and I'm sure you'll be missing opportunity to come to Pakistan. So let's work towards at least a people-to-people group should find some visa for professionals, professors, teachers, lawyers, students, so that we can go and I think we should be exempted from the restrictions. And I see if your group could appeal to all of us to get the visas so we can travel. Thank you very much for. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so my name is Khalid Naveed. I am from Movement for Peace and Justice. I am actually from near Hyderabad in Telangana. So the day I got the invitation about this program, I was very excited as when I was in my childhood in Saudi Arabia. I studied from class 1 to class 8 in Pakistani school. So there are many friends in Pakistan. I have my childhood friends, and I was so excited that finally there was a chance that our countries are going to meet again, and there will be a harmony among these two people, these two nations. Sorry, and you can say that I'm very anxious to participate in the 18th and 19th program, and I'll be sure my two friends Vijayan and Peter are here. We will be finally meeting again after many times, and especially I am astonished to see the woman power and then the intellectualism which I have seen here. I first have seen this when I was working with Edulu Karnataka in the last elections. There were so many women who are heading those agitations and programs. So there I have seen and I have believed that the women in India, they are now in forefront and they will be leading not only the agitation but the mindset of the India. And of course, I believe that the harmony between and the friendship between our two nations will build again, especially by my sisters and all you ladies. Thank you very much for this program, and I will surely meet you daily. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vasanti, and I think you're the last speaker. Yeah.
What can I say except to say that there could probably not have been a more opportune moment for in a sense, our revival of our activities for peace and the Pakistan-India Forum for Peace and Democracy. Just the fact that this response, and the more opportune moment couldn't have been when we had the ceasefire just day before yesterday. And I think that has energized a lot of us. I certainly felt very energized. And I think this is just a good omen, shall I say, if one wants to think in those terms. Thank you, all of you, my colleagues and the leaders in the Pakistan-India Forum. Saida ji, Rita Manchanda, and I'm not mentioning all their names, but I think it's amazing. I have seen cover after God knows how long. And so we look forward towards some more meetings of such kind so that we can at least have online meetings. I think it's extremely energizing. And yes, I agree with everybody that younger people should really be part of this thing. Thank you very much, all of you, for being part of this and adding to the collective energy and what shall I say, hope that we can look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Vijayan.
That's thank you, Rita, and all of the speakers. I think it was really an exceptionally good evening. Excellent sharings here. And I think I was just about to write in the chat saying that there were these two phraseologies that came about in our planning discussion for this national convention. One is, of course, geographies of conflict, and the other is actually memories of peace. And I think we have really kicked off our, at least on the Indian side, the national convention's preparations, which is just a week away from now. Really look forward to meeting many of you who are in India. Unfortunately, we are not in the greatest of times to have visas to have the joint convention. But as I said back at the beginning, that it's very important that we make sure to keep pushing. And that push is, in a certain sense, I look at it as that push as a prerogative of the Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, that we have, and we will continue to push the limits, push away those walls. And I think that's our strength, and that's what we have done. And I'm extremely happy that many of you also mentioned some of our, I would say, ancestors in the peace movement. I mean, the stalwarts who actually made sure, the men, women, and the trans friends who made sure that this is not about peace being a way, but peace being the way. So thank you all very much once again. Really look forward to the 1819 convention, the Ishq, Siyasat, Awam, in honor of Pash, Faiz Saab, and Sahil Saab. And also, this is in continuation of what we started last year by remembering Hamida Riaz and Amrita Pritam in the first episode of Ishq, Siyasat, and Awam. But this is going to be our national convention. We are really looking forward to reinvigorating, revamping the forum, also as a membership-based organization. And that is where our strength came from. We were not propelled by any kind of funding or any kind of projectized work. We were propelled by the people, and we were never a track-through diplomacy organization. We always believed in the non-statist narratives that Vani spoke about today also. So I think we have done exceptionally well this evening. I'm really grateful to, especially Rita. I would definitely want to take her name and mention that here. Rita, as our co-chairperson from India's side, has really taken the full effort heads on to organize this as a continued effort. Thank you, Rita, for that. Thank you, Saidapa, for backing up everything with the team. Thanks to the fantastic comrades, volunteers. I mentioned some of you in the chat box too. I'm very happy that the PIPFPD has a good, active set of young comrades who are contributing in multiple ways. So thanks to all of you. Thank you very much. We call it a day now, but yeah, a lot of work coming up. There's a lot of merchandise being put out. There's a lot of effort to put together one of the really rundown, cheaper auditoriums in the city back into shape to make sure that we have a great convention. There is a lot of effort that's going on to raise resources for it. We have been at the bottom of the pit in terms of resources, but we are very confident that we will pull it off as a political event that's worthy and that will be archived in these times. As I said earlier also, these times will be remembered, and thanks to some of you for saying that, Nupur especially mentioned it. I mean, what is a better time to talk about peace than these, times of mindless wars? And she used the word meaningless wars. And I, of course, as a joke, I thought that, Nupur, is there a meaningful war ever? But yeah, on that count, yes, excellent. Thank you all very much. Thanks to everybody who contributed to this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye and
Bye-bye.
Good night from Delhi.
Can I just request everybody to please switch on their videos for a photo together?
Great idea.
Rani, please put on your video. Avita, Anwar.
Mine isn't off.
Evita, not Rita.
Please put on your...
not Rita, Evita.
Priya, Mani,
and
Bhupendra,
Khabar
Gopal
Mumtaz.
Varma, please put on your, Memuna, please put on your video just for a minute.
Khabar Mumtaz.
Ashima.
Khalid Naveed. Yes.
I just saw Sujata here. Thank you very much, comrades, for
Alina.
joining us.
There you are. Who's this in the middle who doesn't have a...
Dr. Muniza Khan, please.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and bye-bye. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.